Apparently, I have multiple things. Look, hey, you don't look like me. Stay co-host. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's because we have the same login. I'm not entirely sure why it has that we're the same person, but
We are absolutely not the exact same person.
what do you mean? We're just alike, Laura. What do you
I
mean?
know we
We're
are.
the exact same person.
Haven't you always wanted to be 57 years old, overweight blonde girl?
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I get to retire at 59 from the State Department. So yes, I'd love to be 57 because that means that I'd only have 2 years left. So
Do you hear that, Andrea? Do you hear the taunting that I get? I don't know, whatever. I think there's lots of faces out there, lots of empty screens. They're all getting coffee and going potty. That's what I think. Jim Grants, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Awesome. And I don't think Colton, have we ever met?
This is my second year teaching, so I met you a little bit at the little summit thing, but other than that, it was just in passing.
You lucky guy. You
I know.
lucky guy. Wow. Are you what school are you at?
We're at Cameron.
You're at Cameron. Okay. You're one of Emily's on again, off again, now we're part, now we're not, that kind of thing. Yeah, you guys have had a crazy existence.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily is you're with Francis Tuttle, right?
Yep.
And is so is Crystal going to be able to come?
She is. She's talking to a student right now on Zoom, getting her squared away. So she'll hop on as soon as she's done.
No worries. No worries. Well, this isn't mine. I'm just visiting. Okay. And now tell me how you say your last name, because a guy I went to high school with had the same last name and he was called Keeney.
Correct.
Shut up. You're the second Keeney I know.
That's probably more than most people ever know.
That's awesome. So what's the B stand for?
Oh, that's Brandon.
Brandon. So you've got a Brandon and a Colton.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, and you're purple. So are you at Francis Tuttle?
No, I'm
You just have a purple office?
People tell me that, and I agree with them because I'm colorblind, so I just don't care.
You thought it was gray.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice shade of gray. Yes.
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
Well, then, as far as I probably look like I'm in a pretty blue then today or something, because I'm in gray as well. I'm in gray. What does gray look like to you?
Gray.
Great. Awesome.
People used to ask me all the time, "Hey, what color is this?" And I'd say plaid.
I love it. It was who was it? Oh, we just got back from a training, and one of the ladies our friend Starla was doing a training on using clay to talk about pathophysiology anyway, building things, and this is how you would do a heart bypass and all this stuff. Anyway, I say all this to say she was telling us a story about a kid in her class that she had, and for years she would say that she would tell him, you know, you're colorblind, and he'd say, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And because he would select the wrong color of clay in her classroom, you know, when they were building stuff. And she said he went and he joined the military, and he came back and said, I'm colorblind. And she said, I tried to tell you
Yeah.
for years. So anyway, it's crazy. Oh, there she is. So Jim, is Daryl going to join us today?
No, he's in Florida on vacation.
Oh, dude.
I know. He sent me a picture of bananas growing outside of his hotel window.
Where is he at?
Uh,
Must be Southern
yeah,
Florida.
well, Florida somewhere. I don't remember exactly.
Well, it's a big state, Jim.
It is. Celebrating Terry's 60th birthday.
Oh, how nice.
I think he said he was going to be in the Keys somewhere.
Ah, that sounds about right. That's one of my things. I want to, it's on my life list. I don't like calling it a bucket list. That sounds like you're gonna die. So I call it a life list. And on my life list, I want to fly into Miami and drive down to the Keys and stay somewhere in the middle, because I've been to Key West, and you know, I think it's, when you're in your 20s, Key West is awesome, but when you're in your 50s, I'd rather sit somewhere where I can just sit and see the ocean. You know, I don't need all the entertainment. So anyway, I keep going out and pricing it, and dang, the little places are expensive. So to rent, doggone it. So, okay. I'm sorry, Emily. I will stop talking now.
I'm zoning out.
You're zoning out.
Sorry. It's Friday and I'm like,
No,
I forget
Emily's
we have
like,
two Emily's too.
you are so. No, I was talking about my Emily.
I know.
You're going.
I was like, if you think I'm bored, I'm not. I was really listening, but I was zoning out while you're saying it, thinking about the beach.
No, I know. Somewhere on a beach, sipping something strong.
Yeah. Right here thinking about that right now.
Well, I just wanted to get to meet some of our new people too. So, Emily, do you want me to, my Emily,
I know.
Career Tech Emily, do you want me to tell them a little bit about how we started our last meeting and what we did, and kind of just ta-da, is that okay?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
you can also, I mean, we have the same name on the screen, so you could just, you can say that I'm Laura also.
Laura too.
Yeah, so it's not as confusing because
Yeah, there we go.
I can't change
You
it.
know you can change that, right? Ding
It will
dong.
not let me because it tries to change yours also.
Ah, okay. Well, we don't know why we log in and have the exact same account, but whatever. So we're so glad you guys are all here today. I can feel the excitement through the airwaves or the TV waves or whatever kind of waves we have here. I think, well, something that helps Emily and I is if we know who all is here, who's in the room. So I'll just start. I'm Laura, the program manager, and I'm going to try and join as many of these as I can, just for consistency's sake, and also because when people are unhappy, it's better that they're unhappy with me than it is unhappy with my Emily. So we're glad you're here. Jim, tell us who you are.
Okay, I'm Jim. Jim Grant's DCE at Autry Technology, Northern Oklahoma College. Been here. We just started our 18th class, 18th year.
What does DCE mean?
Director of Clinical Education.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I really didn't know. Okay, cool. Emily, Emily Francis Tuttle.
I'm Emily Hedrick. I'm at Francis Tuttle. I'm the Director of Clinical Education, and I'm going on my 5th year here at Francis Tuttle.
Okay, apparently you're a DCE.
I'm a DCE.
Okay,
Yep.
just checking. Colton,
I'm also a DCE, but I'm out of Cameron University.
okay,
And second year on the job.
second year, awesome. Okay, Brandon, Bobby, I already forgot your first name.
No, we'll go with Brandon.
What is it?
It's Brandon.
Okay, thank God. I was sitting here going, I think it's Brandon. I think it's Brandon. If I say Brandon, he's gonna go, eh. Hey,
Okay.
Brandon, Keeney.
Hey. Yes. Brandon Keeney, Program Director, Cameron University, starting 3rd year.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Crystal.
Crystal Cosper, Program Director at Francis Tuttle.
Sweet.
It feels like I've been here for 100 years.
Whatever. What are you at like now? Maybe 8?
I started in 2012.
Okay, so maybe longer, maybe 12.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrea.
Good morning. Andrea Long here at Autry Technology Center. I am the Director of Full-Time Programs overseeing our business and health programs. So I get the opportunity to work with Jim and Daryl to obviously support them and their programs. So excited to be on today.
She says as she logs on to these every day for the next month. Yes, I know.
I believe this is number 5 for me already with about 15 more to go.
Did someone else, who else has had theirs?
Let's see, we had Surge, we've had
Right.
IT, we had business, we've had finance.
Okay. I didn't
Yours
know that.
today.
I would love to hear, but you can tell me later, but I'd love to hear what they're doing differently because we haven't had a chance to all sit down and talk since we had
started.
First thing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, but we won't bore these lovely people with that.
Yeah.
And Amanda.
Hey there, I'm at Francis Tuttle as well with Emily and Crystal. I'm an instructional designer that works with health.
Okay, awesome. So we've been tasked with the exciting job. We found out last November that there was that federal financial aid was, I guess, they started, there was something that made our financial aid person here at the agency go, something that's not what I've heard in the past. And so after much confirmation back and forth, we realized that they were going to be firm about everyone having the same number of hours in a program across the whole state. So of course we were all, because it's November and the framework was going to be released soon, everyone kind of went into freak out mode, and we knew that there was no way we could meet with everyone in that time frame in order to still open the framework and so people could get out there. So those of you who don't know what the instructional framework is, there is a platform, a digital platform that basically we put in. These are the programs that we offer in the state of Oklahoma. And many, this is actually, Jim, you probably remember when career majors were a thing. Many years ago, we did the same thing, only we called it career majors. And we sat down many years ago with all the respiratory programs and we came up with a framework. This is what, can we all agree on these courses? Can we agree on these hours? And it was for our use. And I want to reiterate again that this is for the agency's use. We understand that you may continue to do some things, maybe not exactly like we have in the framework, but we've been tasked with putting something in there that is like going to be called respiratory care. Okay. And, or if you have two, which I think you guys have two programs, isn't that correct? You have no, yes, there's you, for some reason I thought we had we used to have two.
It's the old way.
Okay, sorry. See, look what I'm learning already. So we used to have two in the thing. And so we came up with what were the courses and what were the hours, and we all agreed, yay, and held hands. And you all know Leslie. And so, there was no hand holding that actually occurred. But we, moved on down the road. We've never gone back to revisit any of this. And it's literally been 16 years since we've done this, in typical state agency fashion. We've kept up over the years and said, is there any big changes? Is there anything you want us to fix? And quite frankly, it was just easier to go, yeah, it's really not that much different from program to program to program right now. So let's just leave it like it is. Okay, so that's what we did. And now they're asking us to refresh and just make sure that we have an accounting of what the basic courses are that everyone offers, or the basic, I'm going to use the word competencies because I really don't care how you group them into courses, but we do have, where we're, and we know we all sit for the same exam. It'd be really easy if like COARC would say, this is the curriculum, the hours you do for everything. Boom, 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 boom. But they're not going to do that. That would be too easy, right? And I want you to know that every other profession is exactly the same way. Practical nursing, between 13 and 1,600 hours. Well, do you want to give us a little more guidance? Nope, we don't. So we understand that everyone is kind of, you've all been, you all can address the differences in your programs based on whatever you've had approved through COARC, right? And I am saying the right.
It's the regent. So COARC approves it, but we have that extra layer of the regent because we're all bound to things by Higher Learning Commission because of the college piece of it. So everything we do has to get prior approval through the state regent office and has to go through curriculum committees at your school. Then it has to go to the regents and it has to get approved by the regent. And so it looks like credit hours on that end.
Right.
But it's like the layout and all of that has that extra layer of state regent approval.
Okay. So all of you, now what most of my programs do that have the associate degree requirement is they require people to come in with the associate degree already. So, but that you're saying, Crystal, you're saying, no, you guys have kept with the same model of doing the associate degree at the same time you're doing your college. I'm sorry, at the same time you're doing your career tech courses.
Yeah, I think every one of us might do it a tad bit different. So like they don't do the year on my layout, they have to complete their gen ed and 2 RC prereqs before they come to do the year on our campus. And then that year on our campus is the equivalent of 30 credit hours, the 3 semesters at the college. So we don't start. I know they do it different. Jim, you guys do it different, right? They're doing gen ed and RC at the same time.
Yeah, Laura, maybe for your information, what's
Yeah.
happened since the last time we did this? The last time we did this, we all had articulation agreements.
Mhm.
And so the college would just give kind of bulk credit for their work that they did at the Career Tech.
Right.
They no longer do that. We now,
Okay.
I think we all work under a memorandum of understanding with that. So Daryl is actually an employee of NOC now because they have to have somebody on staff that's a subject matter expert.
Right.
Francis Tuttle, OCCC, I think has hired their own subject matter expert or is hiring. And then Cameron in Great Plains, both of them, Colton and Brandon, both are employed at Cameron. Is
Right.
how we did that. So everybody's done that a little bit differently. And it's because we have to have the Associate of Applied Science and Respiratory Care. We can't have just a generic associate.
Certificate. Okay. And there is the associate. Okay, so we're trying to get and with you all, everything does have to tie into credit hours and things like that because you are part of the collegiate experience, I guess you would say.
Right.
So okay, that is different than some of our other areas. A lot of ours have said we don't want to have to mess with the colleges, so we're just requiring it as a prereq or within the last 15 hours. So gotcha.
Also, all of our, as far as NOC and Autry, all our FAFSA and financial aid all goes through NOC. Autry
That-
does not do.
That's how we do. All financial aid goes through OCCC.
Same with Cameron.
Okay. So
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 we follow
none of-
their regulation stuff. Like we do never
Okay.
attended reports through them and that kind of thing.
Okay. That may and we haven't really talked through how that would be different for you guys. I didn't realize that I knew you all had partners. I knew you all I knew that people were having to be affiliated with one of the colleges in order for these agreements to take place. I was in those original HLC meetings and recall the complete despair of our career techs for going, oh, this is so painful. So yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. So it may make it a whole lot easier for us then. I do know that you all, so what you do, I started to talk about the CTIMS, the system, and basically, and this is for my Cameron guys more than anyone else, because you may not be aware, but the school, and actually this will be the first year in a while that your school, that Great Plains, will actually go out and add you to the program list. In the last few years, the process has been you go out, the school says, I want to offer respiratory. They click respiratory. They enter in, we have a bank of courses that are built off, Jim, what we did many years ago, and since that time, your schools have gone back and put courses in as well. And then, so they go out and they pick this one, this one, this one, this one, and they all add up to a certain number and they attach your names to the program. So we know what teachers go with what program area, and ta-da. And then it comes to our office and Emily goes, yes, I do approve that program. That's awesome. We know about that program at those schools. So she says, yes, sir. And it's over and done with. So what I explained last week to the Surge Tech group is that what we have in our system doesn't need to rock your world. Okay. It doesn't have, we don't have to make it difficult. We can, if we have a general curriculum framework for us and an hour, you know, and you all can go, yeah, that's pretty much what a program, a respiratory program looks like. Click, and we're done. You all don't have to, I mean, we don't have to get into well, we spend 5 more hours doing this, we spend 30 more hours doing that. So basically and it's very painful for me to say out loud, but what we need and what your school says, yes, that's what we're doing, doesn't have to be really what you're doing. I know. Yes, it's being recorded. I have to say this so many different times. This is scary for me. But I've confirmed with my boss multiple times that this is, we just have to have something in there that is a common number for a common program. And because there are only so many SIP and SOC codes, I don't know if y'all are familiar with those. In a nutshell, when you go out and you do your taxes and you know where it says, what do you do for a living? It's basically the same codes. It's job codes. And in healthcare, there's only so many job codes. You know, a respiratory therapist is a respiratory therapist. There's not, you know, you don't have an assistant respiratory therapist. You don't have an aide. You don't have, you know what I mean? There's just, nope, this is it. So we have to come up with something that represents that. And that's what we're here to do today. So I don't know. Yeah.
But they won't let you just use the credentialing matrix. Here's the matrix everybody has to meet.
Show us.
It's, let me find it.
Talking about things on the MBRC.
Yeah.
Yeah, the credential. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's
can-
COARC holds us accountable to do curriculum review based on that matrix, and that's what we do our annual reports on. And then the sub scores they give us, and we have to adjust curriculum based on our annual report on that test.
Okay, well, if you can show us and it looks something like, I mean, we are all about whatever's the easiest way to do this, right? Right, Emily? Is there something else that I'm not saying, Emily, that you want to hop in here?
No, I mean, it's one of those things that, like, since this is the catalyst for this was the financial aid, it's about having everybody have the same, like, the end number of hours be the same. And kind of like we talked about in Surge Tech, if it's like, okay, well, you know, say Audrey's like, well, I do this many hours of med term, and then Francis was like, well, I do this many hours. It's like, I'm not going to come into your classroom and say, have you taught exactly 65 hours of med term? That's not going to happen. It's about having that common number for financial aid. Even though financial aid, I know, doesn't go through the tech, in this case, doesn't go through the tech centers, it goes through the colleges. Like, I understand that. It's a reporting thing. You know, would we like it? Would we like to have more accurate information and data, know what everyone's doing? Yes, but the catalyst for this conversation is financial aid. So, like, if that credentialing matrix shows exactly what standards you have to meet, then that builds it for us in a way. We can say, does this look like what everybody's doing? If you have to do this, great. We can compare it. I have the programs and their courses. I can share my screen here in a minute. I have them lined out for all 3 programs. It looks like you all are doing pretty much the same thing, but you all call them very, very different things. So I think it's confusing because I can't do what I do with some of the other programs and say, okay, well, everybody has med term and they're all calling med term and this is what the hours are. A lot of these are pretty much the same thing, but maybe the words are in a different order. So I can show it to you all, and it looks like you guys are doing mostly the same stuff. And if that's
Laura, I just sent you the link to the matrix.
Yeah, I saw. So we're going to let you pull it up and explain it to Emily and I, if you don't mind. Crystal, did you see it, Emily? She popped it up on the screen.
I couldn't tell if it was sharing or not. Sorry. That's
yeah, it
I
was.
can't
That's
see
great.
Okay.
No, go back and just explain what the numbers up at the top of each of those things mean. You'll
Okay.
see, you'll see what I'm
See it
talking about.
again or no?
Yep.
Okay.
So where it says patient data 15, 27, 8, and 50, what does that mean?
So, and Jim, whoever, Jim, Brandon, all you guys jump in. So this is, we have 2 credentialing exams, but the
Right.
first one they're eligible to take is this TMC. And
Right.
so this matrix is basically what we go off of. And so it breaks it down into areas, and then off to the right where it says the ethics recall application analysis, that's the question type that would be
Okay.
associated with it. And then the
Okay.
number of questions in that area. But still then as you go down, it would kind of mark and let you know,
So the 4, 6, 10, 3, 6, 1, those are numbers of questions.
yeah, so like there's going to be 3 recall questions over perform clinical assessment. And then under that section, this would be what that content would be. And so we're held accountable for this entire matrix.
Sure.
And each year, when we have to do our annual report, we link it back to this content. We have to go through, we get this report and we look and it breaks it down by these subsets. And it says, if you drop below the national average in these certain areas, you have to create a plan each year that you're going to bring that back up based on curriculum revision, whatever you're going to need to do.
Yes, and we have to do this 2 ways, both through the co-arc annually reporting, and we also have to go through the HLC, WEAVE, or whatever our colleges are doing, because we have to speak to the same results.
Correct.
Sure.
So I'm working on my report for the college right now, that basically I use this tool, that data I got from the scores each year and
Correct.
create my college report.
So
Yep.
what I see here is a skill standards list or a test blueprint. Right? I mean, everyone calls it something different. Content
Yeah, they
outline.
just call it the credential matrix is what the
Okay.
test matrix. So there's one for the TMC and there's one for the clinical simulation exam.
Okay. So I see evaluate data in the patient record. So this is, and these are all the things that you need to know. Okay. So go down to B. Let me see what B is. B, perform clinical assessment. Are A and B in the same course?
They spread out.
Yeah, it's spread out throughout.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I could show, like when we do ours, because we teach we put it by course, and then we also break it down into, we use the LAP, the learning activity packet
Mhm.
still. So like we go that detailed because on all of our information, I link it to this matrix, and then the course that I'm in, like
Okay.
study objectives. So my syllabus has generalized co-arc
Mhm.
things that I'm meeting, and then it has some more specific things off of this matrix that I would be meeting for what I was teaching at that time.
Okay. So does COARC have any set courses or groupings of
No,
competence?
it's like a list of some generalized objective goals that you have to meet. I can't remember how many's on there. Do you remember, Jim?
I don't remember. We just have to show co-arc what courses we're teaching these things in.
Right. Okay.
And as far as like our course names and our course titles, I'm pretty sure NOC is the one that named those. And I saw what Autry presented to State Department this year is based on the NOC names and the NOC courses and stuff.
Okay. So, and this is one thing that we don't want to change this for you, but we have to come up with something for our framework. Okay. So I don't want, just like you're saying, I crosswalk this and say where I do this, as long as in your head, that's where I would put that. Emily has, do you want to pull up their courses and stuff and just show? I don't know if they all know what each other's look like. I'm sorry, Jim, you wanted to say something else I can tell.
I was just going to say, I'm guessing probably the biggest difference, because we're all pretty much teaching the same thing, probably the biggest difference is going to be in clinical hours. Because COARC requires different places to have different clinical hours. When we started our program up here,
Yep.
Our particular referee at the time didn't think we could be successful in Enid, Oklahoma, so he gave us a huge number of clinical hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the same treatment down here
Yeah, so
to the point where we have to go an extra semester.
so clinical hours change and those types of things. And I've even heard, there was always possibility of a new school coming. I've heard that the new ones that are getting approved through COARC today are having even more clinical hours. So, upwards of 1,200. We're at 852. I don't know where everybody else is at.
We're right around 900, I think.
So
Colton, do you know that number?
Not off the top of my head, but it's 84.5 per credit hour, then times 10. So yeah, we're like right at 900. Like 900 credit hour or 900 hours of clinicals.
Okay, but okay, so this is curious to me. If you're at 900 hours of clinicals and this is what your school turned in, just FYI, 1264. Okay, so this is what they said that you did or how it related to, I don't know though, you have 2 courses on there that say 0 hours. So maybe someone just didn't put the number in right.
No, that's correct. We actually have this mechanism where we'll hold the student extra to make them do work that's worth 0 credit hours.
Oh, I
And they
bet you
call it
get lots of
recitation.
feedback on that, don't you?
Well, it's rarely used.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's a catch-all. If I need to keep you after class because you ain't doing well, you staying after class and you get 0 credit hours for it.
Okay, gotcha. We're just trying to get you where you're getting out the door.
Yeah, it's our other duties as assigned writer
Okay.
for our students. That's
Okay.
how I understand it. But I'm only in my 3rd year, so I came in here just as clueless as anybody. So
here's my question,
Laura?
Colton, because financial aid only lets you have 50% of, it has to be equally split, clinical and classroom. And I mean, they're pretty strict on it. Like, yeah, you can't have more clinical hours than you have classroom hours. And if that's your number, 1264, it would be more. Anyway,
Laura, remember,
Yes.
they're not, their financial aid isn't on our campus. It's at the career
No,
level.
I
So
know.
that, I think they have a little bit of different regulations on that financial aid in regards to what you're referencing.
you think that they allow them to do more
Because
clinical?
they're credit hours and not seat hours at the
But it's still
college.
the same thing. I mean, it's still more content in clinical, isn't it?
well, they go and like they'll get 4 hours, but they're spending essentially, what is it, 24 hours in a clinical?
It depends on how
Or
they're
it's
dividing that.
Yeah. So each one of our credit hours is associated with 84.5 hours of
Okay.
time. And that's what they need to meet before they can get their credit hour of class. So how our clinical practice 1, that's pretty much just saying 1 credit hour. Clinical practice 2 is 2 credit hours. So you're doing that times that 84.5 to meet the total time requirements that Cameron requires for them to receive those 2 credit hours.
Okay. Okay.
Laura, I'd like to also point out, you're showing Autry at 1,600. Is that what I'm seeing? I have in front of me what we submitted. We show that we submitted 1,644.
What got approved? So these are the fully approved programs. So after we approve it, it goes to our financial aid person. The fully approved status in our system shows 1,600. That's what it has in CTIMS. So I don't know.
Look though, look up at the top. It says 1644.
Yeah. So the course hours and the program hours are different. It shows that in CTIMS. So whenever we approved it, they matched.
Huh.
So part of my course content is taught as prereqs, and so it's not listed on here, but it's required, but it's over at the college.
Is it, and that's one of the things that we talked about last week is, whatever a prereq is still considered part of, you still have to have it before you can graduate, right?
Correct.
It's all still part of the plan of study.
Yeah, and it's considered like when COARC looks at it, it's listed as
Your
my
course.
plan, my course, and it's not on here.
Those
Yeah.
aren't on here?
No, the two that
No.
are taught at OCCC are not on that list.
What would those be?
Intro to Respiratory Care, which is a 2 credit-hour college course, but they take it before they get admitted at Francis
Right.
Tuttle, and then cardiopulmonary anatomy and physiology.
So what would how many hours would that add to your 1,300?
I don't know how you did that. I know because
I don't know either.
those 2 classes are considered OCCC and credit hours there because so many courses have to be taught at the degree granting institution for HLC. That's why we did it before they're admitted. So anybody can take them. They're listed as general ed, but they're required RC courses and they have a RC prefix at OCCC, and that content I'm held accountable for on COARC, but it's over there because it's before they come here.
Okay. But if it's a 2-hour, so my friend Colton just was explaining 84 something is
84.5.
84.5 is the magic.
So like my 2-hour credit course, they have to be in the seat, their butt in the seat on campus 2 hours a week.
Right.
16 weeks is what?
And I believe that hour was, those hours were from our university. That's what they decided.
Because everyone does it
credit
a little
was.
different.
Those many hours were required for that credit hour for clinicals.
So if you had to guess, really, Crystal, your number is going to be a lot closer to, if you add in your prereqs, it's going to be closer to Autry's than 1,300.
Maybe, I don't know. That's what here, we don't report anything on it at Francis Tuttle. We don't do any statistics on it. We don't do anything of that, but it's required in the degree plan. That's what we teach, like I teach it. That's the spot we're filling. That person is part of our staff. And when I do curriculum and COARC and all of that, it is part of that, but they're not admitted into the program yet on the career tech side when they're in those classes.
Okay.
Laura, I did the math on what you're showing in purple, and I'm coming up with 1644 because every one of those courses and hours in purple are what we submitted. But my total, when I calculate, is coming up to 1644, where you've got 1,600. I think your formula is just maybe not correct right there.
So on the request that I approved, it has the 1644 on it. But on the financial aid report that it lets people, because I can't see what we approve, like on my step, I can't see. So I don't know if the computer's showing me financial aid is 1,600. I can't pull the detail report.
So, Emily, what I'm saying is if you take a calculator and add up the purple numbers, they come up to be 1644.
Oh yeah, that's I understand that part. I understand that's why I kept this up here.
Yeah.
This part up here. This is what in the financial aid part, this is what it shows, because this is more about the financial aid part. This is what it is. Because down here, I also have all the courses that are possible in our framework thing. So for us, the course hours are 1644. Under the financial aid, this is what it shows. But I'm also thinking, since financial aid doesn't go through us, I don't know why it's 1,600.
Yeah, I think it's just wrong.
So,
I think we need to change the purple number to 1644.
If we want me to do that, I can change it to 1644 here, if that makes it easier on everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that if you took a calculator and added those numbers, the number 1644.
Yeah.
So I think it's just wrong in the system somewhere because those purple numbers total 1644.
Okay.
Do you have any, I do have a question for because Francis Tuttle has, is anybody else doing like prereqs or things outside that are not here, like that are not listed on this list?
We do prereqs that are not listed here, but they're general.
They're general.
Gen eds.
Yeah.
Okay, like English and math and that.
Oh yeah, the histories, fine arts, math, chemistry.
So do you not so they don't come to you until they've got most of their other gen eds done?
Yeah, I'll let them like do a concurrent, maybe 1 or 2 classes. to fill up the seats, but I know they can accommodate those in the summers when they're not doing a lot of didactic. So they're just doing clinical, so they can pick up their fine arts, or they can pick up a history if they don't have that one.
Okay. Do you feel like,
Autry doesn't,
go ahead,
I'm sorry.
I
No,
was just thinking, I think Andrea's gonna say the same thing. We are set up that we can actually take a student straight out of high school and they can have no college and go all the way through. We do give preference to those that already have a lot of their general ed, but it is possible for a high school student to come to us and take everything concurrently at the same time. Our program through NOC, we have it set up through semesters where they can get their English and their college algebra and their micro and biology and all that stuff at the same time.
and that's
Autry
what I
doesn't have
remember
any
from years
prereqs.
ago. I overspoke someone, I'm sorry.
I was just saying that Autry does not have any prereqs to their respiratory
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
And Great Plains, yours are not respiratory related, but they are. Do you feel like Great Plains, that what is listed in the peach boxes is what it, I mean, this is what your school turned in. Does that feel right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How are your little course hours? It says 16 on the clinical practice 1 and then 64 on clinical practice 2. Are those just how the hours or the number seat time?
Mhm.
So like our clinical practice 1 is 1 credit hour, and then clinical practice 2 is 2 clinicals. So I feel like that number should be at least half of that 64, so 32. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's
Yeah. And this is what your school put in. So it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, I don't know where they're getting those numbers for the clinicals.
I think they're just going eeny, meeny, miny. They're not here. I'm going to put something in.
These are
A
the
lot of
imported
times
boxes.
people
All
who-
I said was import to sheet. That's all I had it do was import to sheet. So whatever they typed in is what's on here.
Well, we have to do a report every semester about how many hours we think the students are in, dealing and doing total.
Mhm.
They may be pulling from that report and sticking it in there.
Yeah.
Because if you look at cardio anatomy and physiology, it's a 3-hour course. Well, we have them actually in seats for 2.5 hours a week. Well, 2.5 hours a week times 16 is not 96. So there's study time being added in there.
Yeah.
It's got to be, because I don't know where they're getting 96 from.
Yeah.
So, but when I report, I say, and I just use the same number every time. I say, well, they're studying a little bit too, so 96 hours for 16 weeks. So they may be getting those hours from that.
Yeah. Well, like
These are also-
midterm is something that I know we just as agency kind of thing, 45 is kind of what we stuck with. And that was based on like what community colleges were doing 3-hour midterm courses. You know what I mean? And going with the 1:15 ratio many years ago. That's where this started. So I'm
Well,
sorry.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So
And
Emily, what were you saying?
This is what pops up like when they click on a course. These are the numbers that pop up. So these are the numbers they're starting with before they edit anything. So
Mm.
there's also a chance that, like, since if they're picking a course and it's not a custom course, if they're just picking one of the courses we have, these are the hours that auto generate before they can edit it. So when it shows up and it clicks and like it fills in a little box, and then they click on the box and say erase, I want this many hours. These are what's already popping up. So it could also be based on if whoever's entering it sees these numbers pop up, they're basing it off of that instead of directly from the report. Like finding the report says we're doing this many hours and this is the course hours that pop up. So the difference between the two is this, that's also what it could be. And some of these are very much the same. they're just under a different name. Like they're the same, like you would be teaching the same things in each of these courses. We've just had people call them different things over time. Which we ran into this with Surge Tech. I mean, there was 4 different names for, I think it was anatomy and physiology. They called it 4 different things, and it's A&P. So these are all of the courses that are under the respiratory category in CTIMS as it stands. They're not like in the framework per se, like they're not in the this is what it looks like. These are just all of your options. And then I think Francis Tuttle, when I looked, all of yours were custom course. They're all like the C triples, and I'm if you're following like whatever the college is saying and you're calling them the same thing, that's probably why they're called that. But these are all of our options. So this is obviously more courses than you all have in your individual.
So this is between what I have put in over the years and what each school has put in over the years. They said, well, we don't call it clinical respiratory clinical 1. We call it clinical experience 1, or we call it clinical applications 1, or
like
clinical
the
application of respiratory therapy 1.
Yeah, like the critical care and critical care respiratory therapy, probably the same thing. Someone just has a longer name for it. So that this is, and some of these have some kind of wild numbers compared to what you guys are actually, like whatever your school submitted, the hours are very, very different than what is automatically populating here. So when you guys model your names after the college that you are following, does the college require that? Like they have to be called the same thing? Like do not pass go, do not collect 200. It has to be called the same thing that they want to call it.
Yes, because what we turn in to get program approved through COARC, through Regent, everything has to, it's your degree plan of study is what it is. It's listed.
Right.
So COARC approves the degree plan, which is based on the college course name, and they would use in their system.
So here's my question. If we came up, because all of this is approved through 2 other entities besides us, and you're not even doing financial aid through us. If we came up with, like, scroll back up, I'm sorry. Okay, so if we said, man, let's just call this X number of hours, and we're gonna use, we see this many here, this many, and average, we're going to do this number for clinical applications 1, clinical practice 1, and you see what I'm saying? So if we came up with, like we did before as a group, back when we weren't associated with the college necessarily, we weren't owned by the colleges then, it's not going to change what you do or your world. Would you, if we could come up with like an hour something that y'all are like, yeah, whatever, I don't really care what you people do, but that number's fine. And we gave you a list of courses that you could go, yeah, those cover all the same things that I need to cover. If we did that on our end and got it back to you, is that how would you all feel about that?
Well, okay, what I'm seeing here is I got a longer list than anybody.
Yeah.
So somewhere in my list are going to fit into their lists, and it's going to double up. So I'm okay with it as long as nothing is affected. But I will defer to Crystal and maybe Jim because they probably know more of the background of what can happen if we do that. But I'm pretty sure that I have a remedy somewhere in both Francis Tuttle's list and Autry's list from my laundry list of things here.
Okay.
Brandon, our list used to look a lot like your list.
Yeah.
And we listed out critical care, mechanical ventilation, and all those. And then when we went through the Higher Learning Commission and that thing changed, and they were changing everything from course hours to semester hours, that's when we started doing the RT procedures 1, RC procedures 2, RC procedures 3, and within those classes are mechanical ventilation and medical terminology and all of that are in those classes somewhere.
Okay. So yeah, I guess from what I'm gathering, we're just a lot more descriptive individually and what they're doing. Umbrella.
You've got it broken out into smaller pieces, but again, we all know that we're all teaching the same thing because they all sit for the same test.
Yeah, we have to. We all have the same standard that we have to teach to. And I'm going to be honest right now, whatever their curriculum is may be better than mine because they get better results. So, I don't know how our curriculum has come from, because I don't have the luxury of an 18-year oversight of this.
Yeah.
I just know what I've inherited. And I also know what our results were and what they continue to be. So, this curriculum is what it is. Am I thrilled with it? Well, I don't have any other idea about it other than how other people do on their co-arc reporting. So what I'll tell anybody is, if somebody has a better way, I'm more than willing to adopt it, but I don't know what that looks like.
Well, I'm not even asking anyone adopt anything else. I'm just saying, if we took your syllabi that you have for these courses and we came up with a common list of courses, and I would like you all to help us with that hour situation, but not for every course, but for the overall total hours. Then, I mean, we're happy to do that. Now that I know that respiratory, they don't even do financial aid through you. This to me is just kind of this is like it's one of those things where just, okay, well, we've got to do it, so we'll do it, but why spend a ton of time worrying about or getting anyone upset with, any kind of changes or there's no need again.
It becomes an active exercise is what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So what did my other two directors think? Or speaking for the director, Jim?
I mean, that sounds good to me. I mean, it's generality. It's kind of how we worked when we did this, the career majors. We did the way we did it then too, for the most part, because I know we just don't fit because of everything else, the career tech mold like some of the others do because of the required, associate of respiratory care degree, and that then have to make the Higher Learning Commission happy and co-arc happy and everything else. And
so the reason yours is 300 hours different is all because co-arc decided you needed more clinicals.
Yeah, at the time. Now it sounds like that Great Plains, that theirs has increased, because I know we were originally wrote our original self-study off of Great Plains, and they increased it from that. So I think Great Plains has probably been increased too, but for some reason their clinical hours don't show the same in their list as what ours do. But it sounds like we have similar clinical hours now.
Okay.
900 and us being 852.
Yeah, these numbers on this list are coming from a report from the college. And I really think it's when we self-report what we think people are doing, because when you all boil this down, we're doing the same amount of clinical hours fairly. In our degrees, I've got 67 degree hours for an associate's, 37 of which are specifically to respiratory, and 30 are prereqs.
How many hours do you have, not counting your prereqs, Crystal?
We say that we have 30 credit hours
Okay.
of RC coursework plus those 2 prereqs. So it's
And
38 pre, 30 us. But like my clinical hours, if I was doing it by how many hours they actually complete, like 1 hour for 1 hour, those aren't correct.
How many hours do they
So
spend?
Crystal, your degree is 60 credit hours?
68. They do
68.
38 because
Mm.
of the 2 places, you know, the 50% or more has to be at the degree granting institution
Yeah,
or HLC. So that's why we restructured the content, and those 2 classes were created to teach on that campus to meet that more, because used to it was flipped. We did more over at the technology side.
I mean, they just count, I guess we're kind of a satellite campus for NOC because ours just count the same, whether we teach them here or there.
So we just got told that the update for HLC this year is that they're saying, because we're a technology center, yes, we're an approved institution, but that we're really not supposed to get grades for our students, that they're only supposed to get pass or fail, and it's just credit, and that that's supposed to be happening statewide. I don't really know if that is. And I got really mad because I was like, if they get financial aid, if they're enrolled, if they're bound to all of these things, then they should be getting a grade that would help their GPA or whatever. And if we're an approved institution, but they keep saying HLC has changed a lot, and HLC is coming to visit me in January. So
Oh, awesome.
yeah,
think
through
what-
OCCC.
Yeah, see, we're 72 clinical hours for our degree, or 72 credit hours for our degree. So, I mean, we can't even agree on how many credit hours it.
Yeah.
I think we're able to do it because NOC employees, Dr. Gulliford.
Everyone has that requirement.
Right,
Oh, okay.
everyone does, yeah,
Okay, I didn't think one of the campuses did. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
yeah.
What's the requirement? I missed that.
That somebody has to be at the college, an employee. That's
Yeah.
that's just a HLC requirement.
We're employees for Cameron, both of us.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Thank you.
Oh, but my credit hour, my second credit course for clinical, Laura, you asked me that. We switched to, after we had our cohort visit and they told us we needed to increase our clinical hours, we shifted everything to a 12-hour clinical day in that course. And so they do 30 12-hour shifts.
Okay. And that's from the beginning of the program to the end, or
No,
that's just which class?
That's just in that one course. So where it says clinical application of respiratory 2, and it says 200 hours. If I was doing hour for hour, not the college, if I was doing hour for hour, they do 360.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it really is closer to 1644. How many?
Well, and if we did hour for hour on
Yeah.
our, it would be much higher too, right, Colton?
Colton's taking a nap.
Because look at respiratory clinical practice 1, they're doing 8 weeks. They're going out 8 times for 12 hours. So that's 96 hours instead of that 16 for
Yeah.
respiratory clinical hour 1.
Right.
For me, the seat hour thing is important in what you lay out, because the college, we say, hey, they have to be here at this point. I have flexibility with what I'm doing, because the college says, well, a career tech does seat hours. And so we kind of look at what are the seat hours, and they give me flexibility, and I'm not always held to the exact accountability of 16-week, 8-week, this, that. So it gives me some maneuver. So if I don't lay this out correctly, then it could bite me in the butt on that end when I'm trying to do some things.
Yeah.
Because we still have them here 8 to 3 every day. We don't do the traditional once they come here. It's a 16-week course. They're enrolled over there. That's what they pay, but they're here 8 to 3 every day because of our seat hour requirements.
Yeah, and we're 8 to noon mostly, which probably pushes us into that 4th semester real easy.
Yeah.
But that's
So
a
you guys are it's only a 1-year program now.
What now?
It's only a 1-year program.
Ours?
16 months.
We're 16 months.
Well,
Ours is 2 years because it's a degree. It has to be an associate degree.
Sure.
And so they do their gen ed, but the RC coursework, the 30 credit hours, is taught in a year.
Yeah.
okay.
We end up being 2.5 years
Okay.
for what we end up doing.
Right.
And That's a Cameron thing, because they won't let us really keep them here past noon. And that's where you see that recitation come in. We really need them here till 3 every day.
Yeah.
The stuff they need to know, but they allow them to jet because that's a Cameron cultural thing, or however they see that.
Wow.
So yeah, I'd love to keep them here all day because I think they miss out on a lot. And yeah, but that's just how it runs. But yeah, our total number of in-seat hours, in clinical hours is much higher than 1260.
Okay. So if we're closer to 16, if we is what 1600, 1650, what would you, I mean, if we were to just pick a number, it's not going to make you all change what you're doing. But if you feel like that's an actual representation of the entire program of study, and when I say that, I mean the prereqs, if you have them, Crystal, the hours that may not be exactly what you do, like the 16-hour instead of 96 hours. If you feel like 1600 or 1650 or something around there would be an appropriate place to try and build a framework, then
here's
that's
what
what we can go with. Go ahead.
Here's what I'd like to do, at least for my list, where it says clinical practice 1, if we could put that 84 hours in there. And for clinical practice 2, multiply that by 2. So 84 times 2, which is 168, I think.
Mhm.
And then for clinical practice 3, it's still the same amount of hours, so it's another 168. And then for clinical practice 4, which is a 4-hour course, it's 84 times 4,
Right.
which is 320. So in clinical practice 4, instead of 128, you need to put 320. Whatever the grand total there equals, I bet you gets a lot closer to Autry's and becomes much more 1600-ish.
Yeah.
And that would, I think we would all be kind of saying, we're keeping them around for the same amount of time.
Right.
How Cameron has them have to stay around for an extra half year because they let them go at noon.
Yeah. So can you go in and change in Brandon's thing what he suggested? So 16 is going to become
84.
okay. Thanks, Colton. 2
168,
168. Okay. 3
168,
okay. 4
and then 2 times 168.
so
336.
336. Yeah.
And whatever that total down there comes.
So if you added it all in the yellow or the orange, whatever it is, and got a new number.
You call it peach?
Peach, orange, whatever, you
called it.
No.
kind of like your wall is gray. Don't cry, Brandon. I'm not trying to make you sad. So is your office in, I know you have an office at Cameron. Do you have an office at Great Plains now also?
I'm physically right here at Great Plains. This is my office. We keep a hotel office over at the college. We also share an office, all our programs share an office over there.
Emily, it doesn't like your addition, does it?
No, when I import it from CTIMS, it does CTIMS math.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I don't.
We need addition.
Yeah, so we can put that in maybe another
It'd be-
column.
I'll
be
move it from
1620.
theirs to mine.
What is it, Colton?
1620.
Yeah.
Wow, that's almost like Jim's by just missing by a day or 2.
So Crystal, talk to me about 1600 for you, or 1625 or whatever.
I mean, like I said, those two, it gets funky because of those two are a required prereq. Although I'm required for the content, they're seen as over there and the student has not been admitted on the career tech side. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know how that works or what
Right.
you guys want to look at, or if we want to make sure it's in my list, but asterisk
Yes.
completed prior
Taken
to
somewhere else.
admission or something.
Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
add those 2 courses. Can you tell me what those are again? And we'll just add them under the rest of the green stuff.
Yeah, cardiopulmonary anatomy and physiology.
Okay. Okay, and that's how many hours?
So it is considered,
It's a 4-hour class?
it's a 3 credit hour class, and they're in class 3 hours a week, and I have to have them 3 hours. It's not, I don't get to do an hour and 15 or an hour. It's in 3 hours for 16 weeks.
Okay. Are you doing the math then?
Yeah, so is it like the 48 hours of seat time?
Oh, it's gonna be way more than 48.
No, it's, I mean, if you're just doing straight hour, it's a 16-week class. It's a what did I say, 3 credit hour class. So I have to have them in class each week per OCCC for 3 hours for 16 weeks.
Same.
So,
When we did ours, we said the 48 or the whatever that is, and then we gave them homework time on top of that. So
Okay.
that's where 96 is coming from.
Yeah, I mean, they have stuff they do outside, but it's seat time. I'm required to meet that minimum seat time.
okay,
Minimum. And so then my other one is a 2 credit hour, and they're there 2 hours a week with me for 16 weeks.
So are 48 and 32 more accurate for those?
I mean, that's seat time.
The straight seat time?
There's, things they're doing outside of that. That's seat time. There's no lab or anything associated with those two at the college.
And what was the 2 hours a week course?
That the introduction to respiratory care is what it's called on their side.
Okay, well, if we're going to do seat time, because I would like to compare apples to apples here, then our 96, where we're throwing 96 everywhere, I would like to make it much more like 48, like Crystal does, actual seat time. So 2.5 hours times 16, whatever that number is for each one of those 96s. Because I think that's what we're trying to do here is compare seat time for each class, right? Whether it be clinic, in a hospital, or in class, right?
I honestly, Brandon, was not in this role when they came up with the hours before, or when we had to do our reorg, like Laura was talking about the first time with HLC. I don't really know how the seat hours on this list were calculated when we did the degree plan revision and turned in.
I think where my numbers are coming from is what I just report total hours spent both in class and out for, because there's no way they're 96 hours. But if we are looking at how we're doing things in our programs, in our seats, in our hospitals, and that's the point here, we're the ones that can tell you what's happening here. So rather than 96, I would rather have 2.5 times 16, which is 30, 40.
Mm-hmm.
So
for me, like, that is just happening at those 2 classes.
Yeah.
Because this other, I'm have them here 8 to 3. That's like a calculation of they're here 8 to 3, either 3 days a week, 5 days a week, or 3 days a week, depending on what semester it is. My cardiopulmonary and intro, since they're over there, they're a different breed.
Right.
I do 2 things.
My cardiopulmonary nat and phys, I know they're in class from 8:15 to 9:30 twice a week in front of me.
Yeah.
So that's why I can say with confidence that's 2.5 hours. Because then we break, and then at 9:45 we're jumping into the next class. And
yeah, my institution says no, break times do not count in that. You're supposed to have their behind in a seat for 3 hours. So I had to adjust my time this semester of class when my class was over there.
So yeah, so I would much, for the cardiopulmonary and phys, if we're going to count it right and be honest, that's 40 hours.
Okay. Is that the same thing, Jim, as your pulmonary path?
Probably is
Do you
similar.
have an A&P?
Yeah, the pulmonary pathology is taught by Dr. G. Well, pulmonary pathology, that's our summer of disease. From that,
Right.
our cardiopulmonary anatomy and physiology is taught by Dr. G, but it is going to be there's the pulmonary anatomy and physiology. It's going to be in the respiratory care procedures. Is our respiratory care procedures 1? It's somewhere I see 2. It's going to
Yeah,
be.
I see 2, but I don't see 1.
I don't see a 1 either.
Oh, it's introduction.
Somewhere.
Yeah, it's in intro then.
Okay, yeah, it's probably in the intro, which
Okay.
includes his pulmonary anatomy and physiology and my intro to RT course are both wrapped up into those. So we
Okay.
both kind of split that.
Way different for his program.
Mhm. So if we,
And for me, we don't have separate labs, so like I don't know that you guys do either, Brandon. Or
We do have a lab, and it's set in an hour for ventilation and for procedures and for mechanics.
yeah, see, our lab is built in, so where it says basic respiratory procedures, it's really and lab, and advanced respiratory procedures and lab. That's one course. It's not a separate lab. And I know at some of the colleges, they do the lab section separate than the course. And ours isn't like that.
okay.
Yeah, so for our for our ventilator course, which is mechanical ventilation, it has a lab, but it's really kind of tied back in. It makes it a 4-hour course. So there is a lab, there is a CRN number, but it's all kind of tied into the same class. And it bulks it up to a 4-hour class.
Okay.
Just like, and even if I do out of the shells and teach out of the shells, there is a lab shell, and there's only one statement put in it. I say, refer to the mechanical ventilation for everything for this. So it all goes into a single place.
Yeah, that's how ours is. That's how it's a 4-credit-hour course, because it's theory and lab together.
Right.
So what are you thinking, Emily? My Emily.
So, I mean, if everybody's getting like closer to like the 1600 area, because the whole thing is that the financial aid goes through the university, and if whatever we do here does not mess with what they're going to report to the university, I think if we make the round number somewhere around the 1600 range, and then we take the courses, and because a lot of these are pretty much the same thing, like I said, they're just combined or whatever, and we just make that framework and put it in. Since nothing that we would do here is going to affect their financial aid or their reporting to the university, I don't know if we need to stress that much about breaking it down to that hour per se. I mean, like, I'd like to get obviously close, and when everybody sends me their syllabi, and like I got Andrea sent me the degree sheet and everything like that, like once we can look at all those, we can get pretty close to what everybody's actually doing. I don't know that we need to sit through and go through each individual course and pick the hours. I think the round number, and then we just go off what they send us, because if financial aid was going through you guys and you were not tied to the university, I'd say then we need to figure out what seat time is for every course and break it down. But I don't think that's going to really benefit anybody, since this is not non-consequential, but in a way it kind of is, because you guys know your standards. You're going to report it to the university, you're going to report it to all the boards that you need to. So this has no bearing on that.
Yeah.
In a way. So, you know, it's like, I would love to know exactly what everybody's doing all the time, but I also know that we all have, you know, jobs and lives and, you know, things, and I don't know that, and that changes a little bit. Like you talked about, Brandon talked about, they give them homework and things like that. So sometimes it's not necessarily like seat hour. It's when they're in front of me, plus the work we're giving them outside and things like that. So there's also just a difference in perception about what those hours might mean a little bit. And so I
It
don't.
just has a bearing on like me, when I meet with mine and I say, this is the reason why I keep them 8 to 3. I have to have a pretty decent explanation of, I say, I'm meeting seat hours for the technology piece of it. I have 3 accreditors, COARC, technology, and HLC.
So if we did,
I mean, 16 is above mine. I'm just saying the reason we kind of need to, we just need to think about, I'm not saying not do what you're saying, but there is a piece of that allows me to keep my students here all day. It allows me to do
Right.
some pieces that we do.
So if the 16 is above your, so like say I took everybody's syllabi and their degree sheets and we found the averages of all the things that are the same, right? And we did the averages and it gets somewhere close to 1600. I know that's above what you're doing. So is that detrimental to you that it's above that?
I'm not sure.
okay. Well, let us, if you'll send us your syllabi for each of the courses or your program handbook, whatever's easiest, it doesn't matter to us.
Easier to see the handbook than
Yeah.
every syllabi.
That'd be great. If you have a digital handbook, that's even better. And we'll let us put something together and let's get back together as a group and before we finalize and say this is it, okay? And maybe Crystal, by then, I don't know if you would have a way to find out if it's going to hurt anything. We don't want to do that to anyone. And that's why in the past, we've typically gone with the least number because it's, you know, easier. But if you feel like, you know, we added those 2 courses in and that, you know, it would almost get you to 1400. So I don't know if I mean, because that's part of your program of study. But we're, you know, happy to throw it out there and see what y'all think and then try again. You guys okay about that?
Yeah, all I'd ask is if you I wasn't on this original invite, so if you could, yeah, I got
For
forwarded.
sure. You know what? You don't show up in my
I got you.
You don't show up in my teacher list. So
Well, Colton will send you the handbook because he's got access to it as well.
awesome.
And I can just get on your yeah, I don't show up. I'm actually a College of Nursing employee that is not really, I'm not a Cameron employee.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, loan or I'm a contracted worker that's in my 3rd year doing this now. So
I feel terrible because see, we don't even know when things change. And so, and because your program has been kind of off the grid, like totally at Cameron the last couple of years, the last few years, we've lost you and we don't want to lose you guys. We want you here. So,
for the Francis Tuttle people, if you could send me the prereqs that I know that you guys don't teach them, like the prereqs that they have to have, the ones that are taught outside of you guys also, that would be helpful. So we can also see like the things that they're doing not through you guys, because some of that stuff might already be built into other programs, like some of the things that are broken down for that, and that might also be a way to account for some of those hour differences. So if we could also see that, that's just the more information that I can get flooded into me would be great.
Yeah, you'll see it on the degree plan because it's listed on the degree plan. You want a copy of that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, all that would be helpful. And I mean, like the ones like this that are kind of weird, obviously when we put things together, we're gonna send it back out and be like, does this look right? Like, does this look like it was something? And if it's going to be harmful to anybody to do that, we need to know that, because then we've got to figure out if there's a way we can do it to where it's to no one's detriment. Nobody loses anything.
right.
based on what we're doing, because that's the last thing
Right.
that we want to do. So any information at all, give it to me. I have a whole little email folder built for this. It's already got hundreds of emails in it.
Mhm.
And I will sort through all of it. And we also do want to, we talked about this after the Surge Tech meeting, putting everybody's like syllabi and everything together and then making that available on CTU so that everybody can see what everybody else is doing. Like just to get some ideas about like, oh, you know, this program at this school, this is what they're doing, this is what their syllabi looks like, that kind of stuff. Cause I think there's also a lot of other schools don't know what other schools are doing. And so
That
this
gets a little
was-
funky with some of the colleges too,
yeah.
about
You
what
all
they
are in
let
a
you put where.
You're in such a different position than most of our programs because you are tied to the colleges. So
College really dominates our scene here. There's
yeah.
very little career tech influence on what I've got, but it's all about Cameron all the time.
Yeah.
Coark and Cameron, man.
I understand. I wish the days were the same as they used to be, where we were all just one happy little family, not people splintered off. But oh well, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
If I
So
could ask just one quick question, I have a text message into our NOC person. What the colleges are doing as far as course hour conversions to credit hours. So we do, we take course hours. So if you had a course hour of, 192, and then divide that by, we use for our other programs, or we don't, NOC uses 40. So we take a course hour divided by 40, and that's how they arrive at a credit hour. Is yours 30 or 40? I think that's a higher learning commission conversion, isn't it? Can somebody?
you're talking
educate
to the
me?
other program people, right, Andrea?
Yes,
Because
I'm talking to
Kim and I don't
Crystal
know.
and,
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't set up this degree plan when they did it, when they
Okay.
did HLC. I don't do that piece. That's what I'm saying. That was something
You
that was done a
saying-
while back.
Are you saying that it seems like the opposite because we like our 67 hours? Are you saying that the equivalent is either 30 or 40? So you would multiply that 67 times 30 or times 40 to get the total hours?
so hang on, let me make sure I'm saying this right. So we're taking clock hours. So 100, and if Jim's pulmonary pathology is, we're saying it's 72 clock hours, seat hours. NOC takes that number and divides it by 40 or 30. I don't know. Our other programs, they divide it by 40 to get the equivalent to a credit hour. So then that might be a 2 credit hour. So NOC is going to grant, when Jim teaches the pulmonary pathology, he's teaching it at 72 hours, but NOC is going to transcript it as a 2 credit hour course on their degree sheet.
So OCCC, when they first did it in our school, I don't know the credit hour calculation they were using at the time, but our students are enrolled in 2 places. They're enrolled at the college and they're enrolled at the technology center.
Mhm.
And so they're seen as having to meet 2 different things. So when they enroll at the college, they enroll in a 16-week course that's listed in that program. And then when they're enrolled over here, we do our thing. We meet our seat hours, we do our things. We have an earlier start date to make sure I can meet the grade deadline. And we do 8 to 3. We do a completely different thing than what they would do for credit hour over there. But I don't know if it's 30 or 40. I can check, because that was honestly when the degree plan was listed and made. It was, when did that happen, Laura? 2015?
Yeah.
I think it was 2015
Yeah.
is whenever they initially did the reorganization, the redivision, got COARC approval, got region approval, all of those things. Because this is way different than what we did before. We had 2 different programs. One
We
was a
did.
fast track, one was 2-year, one.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think I have the career tech influence on any of my hour reporting. It's all straight Cameron hours.
And when we redid that in 2015, yes, there were some general things which Laura could tell you, but at that time, there were a lot of people that worked with their partnering institutions in different ways to meet things.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
was wondering if
all-
if it was just the individual institutions or if Higher Learning Commission has some kind of formula to calculate, seat or clock hours into credit hours.
There's a formula they use, but I forgot the name of it, and I don't know if it generates from HLC or, I mean, I would assume they were talking about it in division meeting. I can ask.
Or are they using the Carnegie unit? Because a 3 credit hour course, like per semester, if you divide that by 3, so each credit hour, it would be 40 hours. So are they using that to try to make it fit into a Carnegie unit?
Maybe.
Maybe, I think Carnegie unit might be the one that my school was talking about.
Mhm.
that's what I was saying when cardiopulmonary anatomy, it's reporting 96 here, but if you did a Carnegie unit, you would make that 40. Because that's literally what they are expected to be in the seat for.
Right, but here they're expected to be in the seat 6 hours a day.
And you're supposed to accommodate
No,
everything.
that's what I'm saying. Here, that's why seat hours are important for me, because when my students enrolled at Francis Tuttle, they're meeting seat hours, and which then meets the requirement at OCCC. It actually exceeds it. But so here, I have them here 8 to 3, so they're 6 hours, or they're at an 8-hour clinical day, or they're at a 12-hour clinical day, Monday through Friday.
So essentially, when you have 6 hours, you need to account for that 360 minutes. And you're doing that with an 8-hour day, but they've got to be in a seat for 6 hours. Is that what I'm hearing? And that's the career tech side of this.
Well, it was based on seat hours. That's where they're here, they're meeting that seat hour time.
Yeah.
For that, and that to meet seat hours, they're here all day, every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe we have that same influence, but I certainly don't see evidence of it now. And
Crystal,
maybe
on
that's what
your-
the recitation, maybe that's what recitation is. But at the end of the day, I'm supposed to hold people for a 0 credit hour class. I got news for you. I wouldn't fool with that.
I have no idea. I've never heard of, I know the word recitation, but I've never heard it used like in a class title. I think that's funny.
Yeah, and I actually have to create a syllabus for it.
How fun. That gets to go and be looked at by boards and stuff.
0 charge. I mean, these things all exist for a reason. Unfortunately, we don't have any institutional history sitting in these positions that can speak to any of this. It happened naturally, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it's charge time, right? Because they have to be enrolled in something for things to cover them, like if they were on your campus and something happened or whatever, and then also the charge time. You have to be enrolled in something at that time, is my guess.
Yeah. Once again, radiology has had a pretty continued stream of leadership. Maybe they know because they probably operate under the same laws and stuff. And I'm sure you guys are dealing with their programs too, right?
The radiology program on Autry is not a degree granting program like respiratory.
Oh, okay.
Same thing, like that's why I said most of our other areas, rad tech, surge tech, even though they are moving towards an associate degree requirement, many of them, rad tech's already there. They make sure they have it before they come in because that's just, or within 15 hours or whatever. So, yeah.
So that's what I think our people said. Yeah, they already have to practically have a degree when they show up to this place, and how they're getting people to double degree, double. It's because it seems like to me they're getting 2 associate degrees, at the same time, but it's weird.
Crystal, if you could clarify, if you don't mind, when I'm looking at the green on the screen in your area, if I was looking at the basic respiratory procedures listed at 150 hours, and I could pull up the degree sheet on OCCC, but maybe you could help me here real quick.
Sure.
Then what would that look like? How many credits, college credits, would they be getting for this course on that Associate of Applied Science degree?
They get 4.
4. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones that I said, it's a combined, like lab is built in that, so we don't have a separate lab
100%.
section or whatever. Yeah, it's all in one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, ours has a lab too.
So like that one's listed really as the course title of it. Andrea is basic respiratory therapy procedures and lab. Same way with like the advanced respiratory therapy procedures and lab.
That's why they're getting that 4 credit hours for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know when we went through ours that they had to make a lot of changes because if he did a direct seat time or to credit hour, it was too high. And he's like, I can't give an associate degree with 80 some hours. So ours got trimmed back to 72. And I think they may even get a little pushback because it's 72 hours.
Yeah, that's how we trimmed. That's why we had to trim ours to 68.
So
Ours used
our
to be
person
different.
from NOC just replied and said that how they converted our hours to credit hours was kind of 3 different calculations. They did one for didactic, a calculation differently for lab time, and a different calculation for clinical time. So it wasn't straight across the board of just dividing by 30 or just dividing by 40. It was a little bit more complicated for the respiratory area.
Well, I wonder what the calculation for clinical was, because that would be probably the way to treat this then. Unless we're just reporting hour for hour. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm tinkering with something that, I have no idea about. But it does seem like we need to speak the same language on some of this stuff. A clinical hour to me is a clinical hour. You're there. You're forced. When we do 12-hour shifts, I mean, it's very impactful. So,
I'm in Debbie Downer mode today. It's Friday and I've been up since about 4. We're going to look at all this and do all of this. And we all were at a conference where they just told us everything's changing anyways. So like our co-arc accreditation standards are changing. And what that looks like, and a big push to competency based. Not that that's going to hugely, but it might impact. Our credentialing test is changing, so it's going from 2 to 1. So I hate for us to not waste, but invest a whole lot of time in something that in 2 or 3 years or 4 years that's going to come faster than we all think is going to make us have to do a whole lot more work.
well, and to that point, I was at the same meeting, and yes, all this stuff is going to be changing because the standards are changing in many different directions. So to spend a lot of time on this, or when we've already admitted it's an academic exercise, I think you can look at this, you can get our syllabus, you can get our handbooks, our degree plans, and you can see we're all kind of doing the same thing. And we're all bringing it into the same amount of college credit hours.
Yeah.
And you get the same credential from all 3 programs.
What we would like is for you all to continue these discussions. You'll have time every year at Oklahoma Summit to sit down. We're always happy to schedule little group meetings if you guys ever want to just get together as a group. I just emailed everyone the list of all the teachers. So for the teach respiratory in the career tech system. So you're all on that list and now everyone has access. So, you're, as you know, Crystal, as the division vice president, if you want to do any kind of get-togethers and talk about those things as they change, you're more than welcome to do that. And we're happy to help or set up the Zoom or whatever you need from us. So,
I guess my only question is, let's say it's 1,600 hours. Let's say we
Mhm.
throw that out there, right?
mhm.
And I'm trying to figure out, will that help, hinder, or stay the same for me? If I don't meet 1,600 hours and I do it in less, you're saying that won't matter because 16 hours is just an arbitrary number, or it's going to come back on me. Well, why are they taking 1,600 hours to do this and you're not?
Well, and that's, there's no, I was hoping that when you said that you did the cardio and the intro, that it was going to be more hours than that. So you would be a little closer to 1,600.
Yeah.
You know, it may be that that we need to go lower. You know, I can see where you might be able to get to 1,400. You know, that may be where we need to park it. And, you know, you guys, everyone, you know, again, everyone just goes, yeah, sure, that's close enough or whatever. And because there's no way we're going to be able to, with the spread, there's no way we're going to be able to make everyone happy.
Yeah, I'm just curious if you're not meeting that, you're saying it's a minimum and I'm not meeting minimum, what that looks like if I'm the one program that's not meeting minimum.
Well, I don't think anyone in the world would even know it except for Emily and myself. And because we're the only ones that look at CTIMs and we really wouldn't care. I mean, no one's going to come in and say, what are you know, are you not doing a full, you know, 1,400 hours? Well, then we're taking your program away. No, we have no control over things like that. And that's the hardest thing for these meetings, is to be able to say, you know what, we're having to do something. We're having to put it in a system that it may or may not represent all of our programs, but back in the day, we did have a minimum hours. And so in the situation, that might be, you know, what we need to consider. What we told the last group was, you know, if you were really concerned about the numbers being different, whatever we end up with, then if like your MBRC test prep that you have, that might be a course that you would offer as a, you know, something after your program is over. You know what I'm saying? But I don't, it's really complicated. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I don't think anyone will even recognize or know that, because none of you do financial aid through us. So I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
But I understand. I'd be worried too.
And I would say a good justification on your hours is, you said you're only doing 360 clinical hours, mainly because you're in the city and you get that good exposure, where we're in the, you know, in the boonies, so to speak, and we have to do more clinical hours. So we're almost double your clinical hours. So if you added your credit hours and just doubled that, that's an extra 300 of your hours there. And that would get you to your 1,600.
Yeah, I mean, if we were doing hour for hour on that
Yeah.
list for clinical, we really do like 500 and something, 552, because we do 30 days and 22 to 24, depending on what the calendar looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing, is this calendars are different, college to career tech.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we follow straight Cameron.
Guidelines for it.
And even the hours that they have us sit these kids in here are following much more of the college element.
And
And
we follow mostly our district, Francis Tuttle's district calendar when they're here, except we start early or we wouldn't meet the clinical days that we have to complete the hours.
So I guess next steps to kind of land the plane is we just need to send those syllabi, degree sheets and those things into Emily and let you guys play with it.
That's
Yeah,
kind
and
of,
then
I
if
think
Francis
so.
Tuttle- You go first, Laura. But yeah, so if, and we can find out if it's gonna be harmful to Francis Tuttle, like if we do put that number, if that's going to hurt what you guys are doing for the things that you're reporting and all that kind of stuff, then I think we go from there. We figure out, we play with it, we figure out kind of what we come up with, and then we send it back out and say, does this look right? And then you guys tell us if that's helpful or harmful, and then we move on from there. Cause I think we won't really be able to know until you guys get to talk to your people, and then we look at all the stuff and figure out what we can come up with. I think it's a lot of theoreticals right now. So like if we could just have everybody send it to us, we'll play with it, figure it out, and then we're not gonna just make a decision and not tell anybody until the very end and be like, surprise, this is what we came up with. We'll send it back out to the contact list and say, does this look good? Is this manageable? Is this doable? So.
You guys good?
I'm good.
Okay.
If it's not separate syllabus and the handbook gives the course description and like the content that's covered in that, is the handbook okay? Or do you
Mhm.
want each individual?
No, handbook's great.
Okay.
We're happy. Happy. Okay, well, we'll work on this and we'll get back with you guys. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Happy
you.
Friday.
Friday, have a good weekend.
You
All
guys
right.
too.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.